Good morning. It's very early on a Thursday morning. Just struck 5 a.m. as I open this video. This is an early start in the hopes that it may help me to deal with the increasing heat. That's the reality of my life right now. It's warming up. I was struck last night in my times of reflection, my quiet time before sleep. My dreams contributed as well. And the pre-contact Hawaiian peoples came to my mind. And what was particularly relevant to today's topic is their rich tradition of oral recitation of their genealogy, of their lineage. They could chant for periods of days a memorized genealogy, not unlike the begats of the Bible's Old Testament. They could recite all the way back to their diaspora, their great migration from Tahiti until the present moment. Precise, exact. Special individuals were chosen to train their entire lives in memorizing this oral tradition. And the ancient Hawaiians seemed to do fine without a written language. The diaspora that resulted in their long canoe voyage to the unknown, culminating in the luck of stumbling upon the Hawaiian Islands, was, as most diasporas, maybe all of the great migrations of people throughout time and history are threefold: famine, drought, and warfare. Now, in the case of the Hawaiians, I would suspect that it was warfare. The losers had to leave, as Polynesian culture is not without its warfare. Again, the Hawaiians seem to do well without a written language. And their population is estimated to have grown to perhaps 3 million people dispersed on the 7 major islands. But contact with the early explorers, followed closely by the Christian ministers who came to the islands soon after the first foreign explorers stumbled on the island chain. And with misguided, in my opinion, misguided zeal, the Christians decided to impose, to create a written language consisting of 13 letters that they heard in the Hawaiian speech. And this was done so that the Hawaiians wouldn't be deprived, in their view, of access to the Bible, reading the Bible, which represented their chosen set of superstitions and beliefs that they set about imposing on as many people as they could contact, as many people as they could come across. It was within their zeal to bring civilization to the savages, to introduce them to the Word of God. Well, the Hawaiians, as most cultures, especially indigenous cultures, had a rich tradition of their own system of gods. And the problem came in the multiplicity of gods. There's only one God, shouted the Christians. Probably the two most major religions that made the largest impact on humankind historically there are Christianity and Islam. And to my eyes, there's more similarities than differences between the two. In Christianity, historical spread of Christianity, all we need to do is visualize a man with a sword in one hand, the Bible in another hand, whereas his Islamic counterpart had a sword in one hand, and instead of the Bible, they had the Quran in the other. Further stressing the similarities were the hierarchical, patriarchal construct, paradigm of both religions. And most noticeably was in their zeal, both claimed to be the only way. The only way for Christians through salvation is the Word of God as represented by the Bible. And the only way to salvation for Islam is the Quran, the voice of the Prophet Muhammad. The greatest commonality between the two was their willingness to kill in the name of their God. So, believe or die, join up, or the alternative was not too pretty. But what I wanted to celebrate today was the value of the spoken word. In the Western academic tradition, writing took the paramount position. But I would like to take a look at the beauty, the simplicity, the directness of the spoken word. But before I digress, before I continue, let me digress a little bit to the indigenous peoples. Taiwan, where I live now, was not unlike Hawaii. But many of us suspect there's a body of knowledge, a growing scholarship that see the Taiwanese indigenous people as the mothers of all the other Micronesian, Melanesian, and Polynesian peoples. Migration, diaspora. Previous to the diaspora that brought Tahitians to Hawaii, something brought the indigenous people to Tahiti and all the associated islands in the South Pacific. But in many cases, the Hawaiians had it bad, okay, because they went, in a period of 50 years post-contact, they went from an estimated, high-end estimation of 3 million, low-end, several hundreds of thousands of people inhabiting the 7 islands, to less than 20,000 within 50 years. The ravages of disease, measles. Hawaiian Islands, after all, was the most isolated land in the world. It remains that way today. It's farther from Hawaii to any of its nearest neighbors than any other place is distanced from their neighbors in the world. So the ravages of measles, and then STDs, the sexually transmitted diseases, decimated the population. In Taiwan, perhaps the mother of all indigenous people, at least in this area of the world from Southeast Asia, stretching through South Pacific to the North Pacific where Hawaii is, suffered a slightly different fate. They were also occupied by a hierarchical, patriarchal society, the Han Chinese. But the Han had addition that strong Confucian element that supported their hierarchical, patriarchal views. Now this was imposed on people, the indigenous people of Taiwan, who were essentially a matriarchal society. Here comes this chauvinistic at times, definitely patriarchal, hierarchical, the haves and the have-nots, political, social construct imposed on the Taiwanese. So the colonists were different. Hawaii had first European, followed by American colonists, whereas the Han Chinese colonized this area of the world. But in addition to this strict imposition of a society that was intrinsically believed that they were better than the people here, better than the indigenous people, came the Christians at a later time. So the Aborigines here, the indigenous people, suffered a double whammy. And in the spirit, if you forgive me, in the spirit of returning to where I digressed to, commonalities among the people of the indigenous people all involve a strong oral tradition versus a written language. I believe that oral tradition, written language, expresses different worldviews. I think the oral tradition remains closer to the natural order. All animals speak out in their own way, but in the sense of organizing and probably better spreading their own brand of propaganda, the written word became representative of the dominant cultures in the world, the ones that successfully colonized the rest of the world. And again, in this spirit of going backwards, I forgot to mention a real strong point about my perception of commonalities being larger than differences between Christianity and Islam, is that they were divided to believers. Christian believers saw everyone else as a heathen, and they sought to bring civilization through their own paradigm, their own structure of understanding. So they came to spread the word, spread civilization, bring civilization as if it was a gift to the indigenous people, the heathens, whereas in Islamic world, you are also a believer or an infidel. So you choose your poison, infidel or savage. But we're here to celebrate, as always, and I've digressed into a little historical perspective to a point to bring me where I wanted to go with this talk. The beauty of the oral tradition. Academically, the top degree in our institutions of higher education is a PhD. Now, a PhD is a unique contribution to the body of your chosen discipline. And when it was my turn to attempt to navigate my way through this system that was imposed on me, certainly it wouldn't be my first choice. But two things bothered me about the definition of what a dissertation for a PhD was. Unique contribution to your discipline, the body of knowledge, the body of information of your chosen discipline. The two things that instantly came to me are like many things. They're opposites. The first one was that how can anything be unique? Anything that has been said or known or heard has been said, is being said, or will be said. No uniqueness. And on the other side of the model was that each and every one of us is unique. So by definition, any contribution that I made to further the body of my discipline, the body of knowledge, was by definition unique, as each of us had our own unique view, our unique being. So, I was full of the doubts of duality. But I chose to pursue, after a master's degree, I chose to pursue my PhD. And the classes were great. I loved the seminars, the small classes with 8 or 10, 12 students and a professor. And I loved the expectation of each person in the seminar was meant to participate, to offer their own views, to offer their own insights, be what they may, to the dynamics of the small class. Even the testing, I've always done pretty well on tests, written tests. So even the rigorous testing, examinations at the end of the PhD program, or near the end, approaching the end. And you were given a book list of 150 to 200 books to understand well enough to respond to testing, rigorous testing. And then comes the oral defense. Well, the body of the work is the same as you were expected to have mastered for your comprehensive tests. But now, in more of a tradition that appealed to me was oral defense, a time to talk. Well, I've always been gifted talker. So I thrive and I really enjoy. And it's really unique because 3 or 4 professors gang up. They're colleagues. They're already in the old boys club. They have their PhD. They're jealously guarding the gate of newcomers that will dare to tread on their turf. So 3 or 4 professors and 1 me. But I held my own. I wasn't intimidated. In fact, I wasn't without some guile, some tricks. I knew about these experts. Some of them had disparate opinions. And if I could get the dialogue going between 2 who were trying to justify, support, and all the academic rigor that comes with making your point, would begin to argue. And it would consume a lot of the time of the protesting. So I did indulge a little bit. I did stir it up a little bit. But not mean-spirited. In the spirit of goodwill and fair play. But the next daunting step was writing a dissertation. Now, previously I did a lot of academic writing in preparation for the great culmination of my academic writing prowess, the dissertation itself, expected to be hundreds of pages in length, expected to be an argument supported by citations from experts in your field that will support and convince. In the argument, the format of a PhD dissertation is essentially an argument, and you use citations to support your point of view, your side of the argument, in the hopes that you'll convince the readers of this dissertation. And honestly, I can't think of anything more tedious than writing a dissertation than reading one. And I speak from experience because I read several in the course of attempting to write mine. No, I was not without some experience of writing in the academic venue. But I hated it. I'd rather go have my teeth pulled. I hated it. I loved lyrical, poetic, and I enjoyed poetic license of fiction to weave a spell through writing. And I still to this day have some skill in this arena. Waxing poetic. I can use words well in a written form, but the needless plunging immersion in minutiae, the academic expectations that you would narrow and narrow and narrow your field of vision to a specific point in time, or very, very, very. That's why reading the dissertations, if it doesn't have 15 to 20 words in the title, it's not viewed as a very successful, as a very good example of a dissertation. So I did try being a self-styled Renaissance man, open to information about everything, I had a hard time pigeonholing myself to become a specialist in a specific area. Now, that's an anathema for someone who's trying to do a dissertation. And we're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 10 years of dedication to this one aspect of your academic life. And somewhere in the process of, I don't know how many, 1 or 2 years into the process, I made a conscious decision that this was not for me. I couldn't waste 2 or 3 more years on something that had been really relegated to the level of trivia. Who cared? I didn't. I'd rather sit and meditate. I'd rather go surfing. I'd rather go to the beach. I'd rather go hiking. There's a lot of other things to do with life. So, I quit. And the whole goal, as far as I see it, was putting those 3 initials behind your name, PhD. That was the goal, to accomplish that. And then you had a license to teach at university. But when you quit, I was given even more letters that I could use after my name. PhD, ABD. 6 instead of 3. But the 3, ABD, means all but dissertation. And honestly, I've never used that title, and I've never seen anyone else use it, because it's really celebrating the infamy of your failure to complete the major component of a PhD, the dissertation itself. So that's why I'm so happy at this late stage in my life that I discovered video, putting my words in my image in the video, sharing my love of words, my love of the language, my mother tongue, English, sharing my presence. It's so much more engaging than writing or reading. Here I am. I don't see you, but at least a few I know are out there. And it's my sincere desire to use my words to be a wordsmith, in the hopes that anything I say to you may be of value on your own journey. And it's in that spirit that I offer you these programs. Thank you.